Today, we're diving deep into something we use every single moment of our lives, but almost never think about our words. We're going to pull back the curtain on the power hidden inside them and see how that power has been used to build the very reality you live in. So let me just start by asking you this. Are the words you use every day really your own? Or are you, without even knowing it, speaking a language that was designed long, long before you were born to make you think and feel in a very specific, very controlled way? Well, there's a name for this. It's called ontological warfare. And it's a wild concept. The basic idea is that language isn't just this neutral thing we use to chat. Oh no, it's a battlefield. It's the place where power structures, religion, the state, the economy, literally encode their own biases into the building blocks of our thoughts, into our words.
So let's step onto that battlefield for a minute. For centuries, the people in charge, the monarchs, the high priests, the governments, they all understood a fundamental truth. The best way to control people isn't with armies or laws. No, the ultimate control comes from controlling the very words people use to think.
And here's the real kicker. The elites don't just get to write the history books. They poison the dictionary first. This is what's called pre-narrative control. It means before you can even form an argument, before you can even have a debate, the very words you have to use are already rigged. They're already loaded to favor one side.
So, how does this poison actually work? Let's get into some real examples. We're going to look at a few words you probably use all the time and uncover the hidden history that's been weaponized inside them.
Okay, let's start with something simple. Left and right. Seems pretty neutral, right, doesn't it? Well, in Latin, sinister just meant left. But for Roman priests, an omen seen on the left side was a bad sign. Christianity ran with that, putting Christ at the right hand of God. Then, fast forward to the French Revolution. Where did the revolutionaries sit? On the left. The monarchy? On the right. And boom, just like that, a simple direction was transformed into a loaded political weapon, forever tying new ideas to the ancient, spooky baggage of the word sinister.
This next one is just incredible. The word villain. Where does it come from? The Latin word villa, which just means a country house or a farm. A villain was literally just a farmhand, a peasant. But you see, to the feudal lords and the church, an independent person living out in the country was a potential problem. So, over hundreds of years, they twisted the word layer by layer until villain meant a wicked, evil person. It's a masterclass in how elites can turn an entire class of people into the bad guys just by changing a word.
And this wasn't just a one-off thing. This pattern is everywhere once you start looking for it. Pagan? That just meant someone who lived in the country. A heathen? Someone who lived on the uncultivated land, the heaths. A barbarian? To the Greeks, that was just anyone who didn't speak Greek. Even the word idiot originally meant a private citizen, someone who wasn't involved in public or state affairs. In every case, a perfectly neutral word for an outsider or a commoner was twisted to mean something ignorant, savage, or stupid. This programming goes so deep that it actually shapes our most powerful myths. Think about the dragon. In the West, the dragon is a monster. It's chaos, it's greed, it's something a noble knight has to kill to restore order. But you go to the East, and the dragon, is this divine, wise creature, a bringer of rain and prosperity, a symbol of cosmic harmony. It's two completely different realities built from the exact same concept, but filtered through a different linguistic lens. And you see the exact same thing with the word demon. In the Western tradition, a demon is absolute evil. It's something external that has to be cast out. But then you look at a figure like the Thai yaksha. They're not evil. They're guardians of sacred places, complex nature spirits that can be helpful or dangerous. This is a classic move of religious power. Take a complex, nuanced idea and flatten it into a simple good versus evil story, because that simple story is way easier to use for control. And that brings us to maybe the most targeted figure in all of history, the witch, or in Spanish, the bruja. The real threat of the bruja was never about magic spells. It was about knowledge. She was a woman who knew things about herbs, about healing, about the human body, without getting permission from the male-dominated church or state. I mean, really think about how dangerous she was to the system. She listened to her own body and to the earth, not to a priest. She was the local healer, the midwife, the wise woman. Her authority came from her experience, not from a book or a king. And she probably laughed at their rigid rules. Her very existence was a threat to their control, a symbol of female power that had to be crushed. And the easiest way to do that? Call her evil.
It was the ultimate act of semantic warfare.
So we've seen this control in the social world and the spiritual world, but it also found its way into the one thing that truly rules our modern lives, economics. It did this by fusing the language of finance with the language of religion.
And once you see it, you can't unsee it. We talk about banks like they're temples. We talk about economic growth as if it's our salvation. A market crash is an apocalypse. We treat a person's credit score as a measure of their moral worth. And the biggest one of all, debt and sin have become almost interchangeable. In fact, the original Lord's Prayer in Aramaic says, "Forgive us our debts, not trespasses." That link between money and morality is an ancient and incredibly powerful tool of control. Okay, so that's the bad news. We're kind of caught in this invisible prison of words that was built for us. But here's the good news. You can get out. The big question is, how do you break the spell? While the first step is to cultivate a state of mind called metaphrenia. It sounds fancy, but all it really means is learning to see through the illusion. It's like learning to see the code in the matrix. You stop taking words at face value and start seeing the patterns of power and control hidden just beneath the surface. So how do you actually do that? Here are 4 simple practices. First, practice etymological mindfulness. Get curious. Always ask, what did this word mean before the people in charge got their hands on it? Second, reclaim the exiled words. Take a word like chaos. Instead of disorder, see it for what it originally was, pure creative potential. Third, speak from the gaps. Use things like poetry or paradox, things that can't be pinned down by rigid definitions. And number 4, you have to laugh. Yes, laugh. Now, that might sound a little strange, maybe even silly, but it is, without a doubt, one of the most powerful forms of rebellion you have against this kind of control. See, all of this solemn authority, all of this serious, poisoned language, it depends on us taking it seriously. Laughter is the sound that breaks that spell. It's a rupture in the trance. When you can genuinely laugh at the absolute absurdity of calling half the population sinister or a simple farmer a villain, the power just vanishes. It deflates the whole thing and lets a little bit of magic back into the world. And maybe it all comes down to this one powerful idea. Power survives by freezing metaphors. Freedom begins when metaphors melt back into life. The whole goal of control is to take a word, freeze its meaning in place, and say, this is what this means forever. Our freedom, our power, comes from realizing that's not true. We can melt those frozen words and let them flow back into the messy, beautiful river of life. So I'll leave you with this to think about. If you could pick just one word, one frozen metaphor that's been weaponized by power for centuries, which word would you choose to set free first?